going on, everyone? My name is Jamon McKinney, or you can just call me Juice because that is my nickname. Welcome, everyone, to the Juice Alert, episode number 32. If you have not subscribed to the Juice Alert already, be sure to do that right about now. You will not regret it. You can find me on YouTube as well as podcasting platforms. That includes Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that great stuff. If you're watching this video on YouTube, be sure to hit the like button right about now. It definitely helps me out here on the show. Also, if you're feeling kind, if you're listening on podcasting platforms, be sure to leave me a good rating and review. It definitely helps me out. Like I said, pretty fun show lined up for you guys today. All NFL related topics. In regards to the show today, I have 13 topics lined up for you people today. We're going to talk about the New York Jets. They finally won a game. You know, what's that mean as far as the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes for the Jets, you know? We'll talk about Deshaun Watson, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers. A lot of good stuff to talk about today. You can also follow me on social media. My Instagram account is GHIMAN_MCK. INNEY. And you can also follow me on Twitter as well at GHIMANMCKINNEY. And if you want to get specific updates in regards to this show, you can follow the show on both Instagram and Twitter. You can follow the Twitter account at the Juice Alert, and the Instagram account is the Juice Alert _. Okay, people, let's jump right into the show. The New England Patriots are not going to be making the playoffs in 2020. Unfortunately, Bill Belichick and the crew are going to miss the playoffs for the first time since 2008. It is only the third time over the last 20 seasons that the New England Patriots are not going to be playing in the postseason. And I know what all you people are going to do. You're going to pile on Bill Belichick. You're going to say, Tom Brady was the reason that Bill Belichick was winning. Tom Brady was the reason for the dynasty. And if you want to feel that way, that's fine. I believe you're wrong. I believe Bill Belichick is the reason the New England Patriots dynasty was, really running at a high level for a 20-year stretch. But if you want to believe that, that's fine. I've done a whole other, topic and episode on who deserves more credit for the Patriots dynasty between Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. You guys can check that out on YouTube, okay? But either way, let me just say this. Bill Belichick deserves the benefit of the doubt for missing the playoffs. Folks, are we going to erase 20 years of excellence from one Bill Belichick just because he misses the playoffs one time? It's pretty clear to me watching the Patriots, this roster's not very good. It's pretty obvious to me the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins by far have better rosters than the New England Patriots. And by the way, I was wrong about the Patriots. I thought the Patriots could be a playoff team this year. I was clearly wrong. They're not a playoff team. This team is bereft of talent. Not to mention, Bill Belichick has several starters opt out due to COVID. Several players, several key starting level players, 8 key players opted out of the 2020 NFL season for the New England Patriots. That's not all on Bill Belichick. The players had to make the choices they want to make, And you have to take into account that Bill Belichick and the Patriots had no preseason games. They had no OTAs. It was a weird offseason of a bunch of Zoom meetings. And yes, every single other NFL team had to deal with the same circumstances that the Patriots had to deal with. However, the Patriots lost Tom Brady. And while Cam Newton is a former league MVP, he's clearly not the same quarterback. And you can clearly see, based on Cam Newton's play, he was learning the system on the fly. And when you combine the fact that Cam Newton didn't have a whole lot of weapons to throw to, when you combine the fact that he just wasn't that good, 5 touchdowns or 10 interceptions, he wasn't very good. And I don't care how great of a head coach you are, you're not going to win with bad quarterback play. Look at Mike Vrabel in Tennessee. Everyone was calling for his job when Marcus Mariota was stinking up the joint. The minute Ryan Tannehill comes into Tennessee and takes advantage of that offensive line and those great weapons, everyone is praising Mike Vrabel. Same thing with Doug Peterson. Everyone this year was saying, oh, Doug Peterson, he stinks. He sucks. He's no good. He can't coach. When in reality, it was Carson Wentz that was clearly handicapping the Philadelphia Eagles. When Carson Wentz doesn't play, Doug Peterson's an amazing head coach. He went to a Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles. The team appears to be much better playing under Jalen Hurts. Keep in mind, Bruce Arians had a very talented roster last year. You want to know why he underachieved? He underachieved because the quarterback was not good enough. Jameis Winston threw 30 interceptions, turned the football over a bunch of times. Folks, give Bill Belichick the benefit of the doubt. He's going to reboot. The Patriots are going to, return to their normal self with probably as early as next season, okay? I'm willing to bet money the Patriots probably can make the playoffs by as early as next season, They just have to reboot. They need a strong draft. Maybe bring in a couple free agents. Get Cam Newton incorporated with the playbook once again. The Patriots will be fine. This season should not define Bill Belichick's legacy. Are we just going to throw out the other 19 or 18 to 20 years of excellence, the 6 Super Bowl victories that Bill Belichick has won as a head coach? If you want to throw that out, that's fine, but I'm not going to do that. And the Patriots, despite all those crazy things going on this year, they were a very competitive football team. They lost to the Seattle Seahawks by 1 point. They played the Kansas City Chiefs very, very tough. A team that very well could go 15-1 this season. And I'm sorry, folks, I watched that game. If Cam Newton had played in that Kansas City Chiefs game versus the New England Patriots, the Kansas City Chiefs would have lost to the New England Patriots. I watched that game. That's the conclusion I drew. If you want to draw the conclusion, that's fine. If not, that's fine as well, okay? That's the conclusion that I drew, however, okay? And then when Cam Newton had suffered COVID, he comes back rusty versus the Denver Broncos, but they still lose that game by 1 possession. At Buffalo, they had that game, right there for the taking, but unfortunately Cam Newton fumbled on the final possession. The Patriots lose by 1 possession. The Houston Texans on the road, they face Deshaun Watson. They lose by 1 possession. 4 of the 8 Patriots losses so far are by 1 possession. And if you want to count the Kansas City Chiefs game as being a very tough game that they could have probably won, then that's 5 games that were very winnable on the Patriots schedule that it just didn't bounce their way, And keep in mind, people, what is the situation that Tom Brady went into when he chose to go to Tampa Bay? Tom Brady, smartly, I might add, chose to go into a situation in which he virtually could not lose based on the perception of himself and based on the team he was going to. Here's what folks are pretty much saying about Tom Brady that are looking to make excuses for him every time he fails in Tampa Bay. Every time he loses a game, every time he plays badly, every time he throws an interception, everyone says, oh, Tom Brady, he's a 43-year-old quarterback. He's learning a new system. He's in the no-risk-it-biscuit offense. It's Bruce Arians' fault. But then, when Tom Brady's winning, they're going to say, oh, look at Tom Brady. He changed the culture in Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers went from a 7-9 football team, 7 wins, 9 losses. They went from a 7-9 football team to a team that's going to make the playoffs. Oh, look at Tom Brady. He changed the culture in Tampa Bay. And to be very clear, I do believe Tom Brady deserves a good amount of credit for helping establish a good culture in Tampa Bay. There's a reason it's been so long since Tampa Bay has made the playoffs. And now, coincidentally, because Tom Brady is now a part of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're going to be a playoff team. But however, Tom Brady walked onto a very, very talented Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. If you actually watched the Tampa Bay Buccaneers very closely last year, like I did when I did a Jameis Winston film analysis video. I was diving into a bunch of Tampa Bay Buccaneers film. I watched every single game that the team played last year, and my conclusion was, man, if Jameis Winston doesn't stop turning the football over, this team could be a playoff team. That was my takeaway from watching the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last season. All 16 games I watched, I said, if that team had a quarterback that was just an accurate distributor that did not turn the football over, the team very well could be a playoff team. And that is the case so far. So I can only give Tom Brady so many stripes for having the upper hand on Bill Belichick because, well, when I looked at the rosters and when I looked at the situation Tom Brady was going into, it was much more ideal than Bill Belichick's situation. Tom Brady, he goes to a team that was very, very talented. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, they added Rob Gronkowski. They got Cameron Brate. Scotty Miller is pretty good. Tyler Johnson's a good rookie wide receiver. Antonio Brown, the Buccaneers added him. Outside of the Kansas City Chiefs, can you name me another team that has more firepower at the wide receiver and tight end position outside of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Because I can't name too many other teams. I'm just saying, people, are we going to ignore the fact that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line is much improved this year, mainly due to Tristan Wirfs, who's a very good rookie offensive tackle that has a very good, bright future in the NFL? Are we going to ignore the fact that Ronald Jones is having a career season? Are we going to ignore the fact that Tom Brady is playing on one of the 5 most talented teams in all of football? Are we going to ignore the fact that Tom Brady has a top 10 defense by his side, arguably a top 5 defense on their good days? Tampa Bay's loaded. The Patriots, they're not a good football team. As I mentioned earlier, Miami, Buffalo, they're much better than the Patriots. So, listen. Tom Brady is winning the early divorce with Bill Belichick. Congratulations, Tom Brady. You're doing what you should be doing. But guess what, people? I'm not here to cancel Bill Belichick. I'm not here to crucify the guy. He's going to reboot. The Patriots are going to more than likely be a playoff team, in the near future, probably as early as next season. They'll get some key players back that opted out. A lot of good young players got experience for the Patriots this year. They will take that experience into next year. The Patriots will start probably winning some more of these close games. If they bring Cam Newton back, it'll be a second year in the Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels offense. And listen, usually when we see a quarterback, go into come back a second season, really having learned the system for a second year, they tend to pop off. Look at Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan was decent his first year with Kyle Shanahan as the offensive coordinator in Atlanta. But then the very next season, Matt Ryan, in his second season in the Kyle Shanahan offense, he won the league MVP, and it got his team to a Super Bowl. We could say the same thing about Aaron Rodgers. Everyone was questioning Aaron Rodgers last year. Oh, Aaron Rodgers, he might have fallen off. The Matt LaFleur system doesn't work. Well, fast forward to this year, in Aaron Rodgers' second year in the system, he's playing like a league MVP candidate. He's having the best season of his NFL career, arguably. And Aaron Rodgers, he's a bona fide Hall of Fame level quarterback that might be a top 5 quarterback of all time. He's at least the most talented quarterback of all time, in my opinion. So, all I'm trying to say is this, people. Give Bill Belichick the benefit of the doubt. He deserves it. He's still arguably the greatest head coach of all time. I don't think Bill Belichick's legacy is going to take a huge hit based on his failures and shortcomings during the 2020 season. Now, I will say this. If the struggles continue and Tom Brady makes deep playoff runs in Tampa Bay, or if he leads them to a Super Bowl, then Bill Belichick might need to answer some questions. But for now, I'm going to give Bill Belichick the benefit of the doubt. I trust in Bill Belichick. He's still a top-tier head coach, and you should give Bill Belichick the benefit of the doubt for missing the playoffs in 2020. And I believe the Patriots will be just fine going forward, led by Bill Belichick. So I'm now going to throw out a pretty crazy idea to you, ladies and gentlemen. Some of you may think it's a smart idea. Some of you might think it's a terrible idea. If you're listening on YouTube or if you follow me on social media, hit me up in the comment section or tag me on social media and let me know what you guys think about this idea, okay? Here's what I think. I believe Bill Belichick should heavily consider leaving the New England Patriots organization. I'm going to say it again. I think Bill Belichick should definitely weigh his options, and I believe Bill Belichick should seriously consider leaving the New England Patriots organization. And why do I say that? I say that because Bill Belichick has an opportunity to try to go and coach Deshaun Watson or Justin Herbert. The LA Chargers are probably going to be looking for a new head coach by the end of the season. If Anthony Lynn is fired, that's a job spot open. And right now, the Houston Texans, they don't have a head coach. They don't have a general manager. Bill Belichick, he can slide right in. He can coach Deshaun Watson, who to me is a top 5 quarterback in the game of football. And just like Tom Brady, leaving New England, I could see Bill Belichick having success with another franchise as long as there's somewhat of some stability at the top, okay? Now, I will say Bill Belichick, he is 68 years old. He's been coaching for 26 years in the National Football League. I don't know when Bill Belichick is willing to, hang it up and say, I'm done coaching. But for now, I'm going to assume that Bill Belichick wants to at least coach for the next 5 to 7 seasons. I could see Belichick coaching for another good 5 to 7 years. The guy seems very youthful despite his old age. And listen, man, if there's an opportunity out there to coach a quarterback, I should say, like Deshaun Watson, or if the LA Chargers, come knocking to Bill Belichick's door, if they fire Anthony Lynn, I think Bill Belichick should really consider taking that opportunity, okay? And there's some other potential good jobs out there. You got the Chicago Bears job, which might be open. Matt Nagy's on the hot seat. Mike Zimmer in Minnesota's on the hot seat. Doug Peterson, it might be on the hot seat. Zach Taylor might be on the hot seat. What's his name? Bill Belichick very well could find himself coaching Joe Burrow. But listen, I think the Houston Texans have more talent on their roster than people are willing to give them credit for. And I do believe Deshaun Watson is a generational talent. I believe Deshaun Watson is a top 5 quarterback at the moment. And Tom Brady decided to leave the rigid culture of the New England Patriots. And he's having some great success in Tampa Bay. Why can't Bill Belichick say, hey, I've been in New England for, over 2 decades? Well, actually 2 decades. He's been there for 20 years. But I've been there for over 15 years. I've won 6 Super Bowls. I've accomplished all I probably can accomplish here. I think I've reached my ceiling. I'm going to coach Deshaun Watson. I'm going to go coach Justin Herbert in the big-time LA market where I can bring in free agents. Okay? Justin Herbert and Deshaun Watson are 2 very talented quarterbacks with one problem right now. They don't have a head coach that I believe in. Right now, the Houston Texans, they're searching for a head coach of the future, and it's pretty obvious to me that Anthony Lynn is not the right head coach to maximize Justin Herbert's talent and to win games long term versus the Andy Reids of the world, versus the Mike Vrabels of the world, versus the Sean McDermotts of the world. The Chargers, they need to upgrade a head coach, especially when you play in a division with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs, they're not going anywhere anytime soon. So the Chargers, if they're smart, they'll fire Anthony Lynn and they'll try to pay some top dollars for a top-of-the-level head coach. And I think Bill Belichick would be the perfect fit to turn around the Los Angeles Chargers franchise, and I believe he'll win a lot of games with Justin Herbert. The same thing can be said for Deshaun Watson. I think Deshaun Watson's excellent, and I believe that Bill Belichick could take over as the general manager of the Houston Texans because they don't have a general manager right now, okay? They need a head coach as well. He's shown the ability to take on the GM duties. He's shown the ability to be a great head coach. He's won Super Bowls. He's arguably the greatest head coach of all time. And we know what Bill Belichick can do with an all-time great quarterback in Tom Brady. I'm not saying Deshaun Watson is anywhere close to a prime Tom Brady. He's definitely more talented than a prime Tom Brady. But as far as, Tom Brady, coming through, winning all these Super Bowls, I'd be dumb to say Deshaun Watson's on that level yet. But Deshaun Watson, he has the potential to win multiple Super Bowls. He's talented enough. Why should Bill Belichick not look at that big-time opportunity and say, man, I can coach Deshaun Watson and Cam Newton. He's fine. He's good, but I think Cam Newton is past his prime. I think Jarrett Stidham is not the answer at quarterback for the New England Patriots. How bad must Jarrett Stidham look in practice? Because Cam Newton has not been very good for the Patriots this year. And Bill Belichick has not even entertained putting Jarrett Stidham in a game. He has not even entertained it. Jarrett Stidham must look awful in practice. And the Patriots, if they move on from Cam Newton, if they don't think Jarrett Stidham is the future, well, you're going to have to bring in another quarterback. He's got to learn that complex system, and you're probably going to have to maybe draft a quarterback. If you don't trade for a Matthew Stafford, if you don't sign a Dak Prescott, it's going to take a while for the Patriots to be a top-tier team once again. I think they could be a playoff team next year, but I don't know if they're quite on the level of Baltimore, Kansas City, et cetera, et cetera. So, Bill Belichick, start fresh if you can. Again, Belichick might get some heat for leaving town the year after he misses the playoffs in New England. But ultimately, if Bill Belichick succeeds with Deshaun Watson or Justin Herbert and he wins big and he gets the Chargers or the Texans to a Super Bowl one day, he will be praised mightily. And there'll be no doubt in pretty much everyone's mind that Bill Belichick probably was the driving force of that dynasty. Maybe not Tom Brady so much. So ultimately, I think Bill Belichick probably is going to stay with the Patriots. However, I will say, if I'm Bill Belichick, I'm weighing my options. And I would definitely consider an opportunity to coach Justin Herbert or Deshaun Watson, because that's an opportunity that a lot of head coaches should not want to pass up. Speaking of one Deshaun Watson, do not blame Deshaun Watson for the Houston Texans' struggles. I'm going to repeat myself. Please, for the love of God, do not blame Deshaun Watson for the Houston Texans' struggles and shortcomings. Let me shift to this. I'm going to ask you all a question. We look at the Houston Texans right now. They're a 4-10 football team. They don't have a head coach. They don't have the organization doesn't currently have a general manager put in place. They're a mess right now. They're not a good football team. They're not close to being a playoff team right now. It's a mess over in Houston right now. The Houston Texans, they have underachieved in 2020. But I want to ask all of you a question, okay? This Texans team is clearly not a playoff team right now. What current starting quarterback in the NFL could lead this current Houston Texans roster to the playoffs? What quarterback do you know right now in the NFL with this current roster, with this current coaching staff, what quarterback could lead this current Houston Texans roster to the playoffs? Because here's what you're working with. First of all, you're in a division with the Titans and the Colts. Mike Vrabel, he's an excellent coach. Frank Wright, he's an excellent coach that no one talks about, okay? You're going up against those guys 2 times apiece. Okay, so you're going to face Mike Vrabel and Frank Wright and a loaded Titans team and a loaded Colts team 2 times between the two, okay? So you'll face the Colts twice, you'll face the Titans twice, okay? Also, keep this in mind. Do you know the Houston Texans currently have the 24th best defense as far as points per game allowed in the NFL? 24th in the NFL are the Texans as far as points per game allowed on defense. Does Deshaun Watson play defense? Does he play linebacker? Does he play safety? Does he play defensive tackle? No. Deshaun Watson is the quarterback, people. Not to mention, the defense is also 31st in total defense. They've given up the second most total yards in the entire NFL on average, okay? They're 31st in total defense. Not to mention, the offensive line, it's not very good. They've allowed Deshaun Watson to get sacked 44 times so far, and we've got 2 weeks left in the NFL season. I'm willing to bet Deshaun Watson is probably sacked about 50 times this year. The Texans' offensive line is surrendering 3.2 sacks per game, which is the 3rd worst in the entire NFL. Right now, the Houston Texans have the worst rushing attack in the entire NFL on offense. The New York Jets average more rushing yards per game than the Houston Texans, okay? They're dead last in the NFL in rushing yards. So your quarterback is going to have to throw the ball a bunch of times in order for you to win football games. You're not going to be a balanced football team. You've heard all the information. You've heard all the statistics. You probably watched Texans games this year. Name me the starting quarterback in the NFL right now that can lead this Texans team to the playoffs. Because unless you don't, the only names you probably should mention are Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Russell Wilson. Those are about the only guys. And I'm willing to bet my money that Patrick Mahomes cannot lead this team to the playoffs. I'm willing to bet my money an older Aaron Rodgers cannot lead this team to the playoffs. And I'm willing to bet my money that Russell Wilson would not be able to lead this team to the playoffs. And again, if they do, that's fine, but that's three guys right there. So we're talking about maybe, and I mean maybe, three quarterbacks currently that are starting in the NFL that can win football games consistently and get this Texans team to the playoffs. We're talking maybe only three guys in the entire NFL can do it. Don't give me Lamar Jackson. Don't give me Josh Allen. Don't give me Kyler Murray. Don't give me an old aging Tom Brady or an old aging Drew Brees. Don't give me those guys. Those guys cannot carry that roster. That should not be arguable, okay? And keep in mind, Bill O'Brien, he traded away DeAndre Hopkins. Bill O'Brien's a terrible decision maker. He's no longer the head coach, but his lasting mark is still there on the Houston Texans and has been there in a negative way. He consistently did not prepare the team for games. He consistently underachieved in Houston, and he did not put Deshaun Watson in a great position to succeed, and he traded away Deshaun Watson's best wide receiver from a year ago, DeAndre Hopkins. He traded DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson. How dumb and how stupid do you have to be to make that trade, Bill O'Brien? Bill O'Brien, he's a terrible head coach. He's a terrible general manager. And the only reason he had a job for as long as he did was because of one Deshaun Watson. And folks, let's not act like Deshaun Watson just started bursting onto the scene. Deshaun Watson, he actually has a real resume, folks. Let's go back to Deshaun Watson's rookie year. Deshaun Watson, his rookie year, he started 6 games. The team was 3-3 on the season. He unfortunately tore his ACL. That was out of his control. Do you know how many games the Houston Texans won after Deshaun Watson got hurt? They won one game. One game. They went 1-9 without Deshaun Watson. That should tell you how good Deshaun Watson is. The team was a 500 ball club Deshaun Watson's rookie year. They could only win one game when he went down due to injury. Keep in mind, everyone talks about, look at Justin Herbert. He's dominating the NFL as a rookie. Deshaun Watson was on pace to have the greatest rookie season for a quarterback in NFL history before he got injured. Deshaun Watson, his rookie year, was on pace to throw for 43 touchdown passes before he got injured. In 2018, the very next year, he goes 11-5. He completes 68% of his throws, has a pass rating of 103, despite being sacked 62 times. And Deshaun Watson found a way to win that division, despite getting sacked that amount of times. He won the division when Andrew Luck was still playing football, folks. He won that division over Andrew Luck. Let's fast forward to the very next year. In 2019, Deshaun Watson and the Houston Texans find themselves in the playoffs once again, despite opposing opponents outgaining the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans last year got outgained as a football team, and they still found a way to win 10 games because of Deshaun Watson. And Deshaun Watson in the playoffs beat a very good Buffalo Bills team. He overcame that very good elite Buffalo Bills defense despite having no Will Fuller, despite having no running game, despite getting sacked 6 times, and despite Bill O'Brien's terrible coaching. If you go back and watch Deshaun Watson play the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs last season in 2019, go back and watch that playoff game. And if you think Deshaun Watson is not a top-tier quarterback after watching that game, then I just cannot help you. You're just blind to greatness. You're just blind to who has talent and who doesn't, okay? And this year, the team's not great, but guess what? It's not because of Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson has not added on to the Houston Texans' problems. Sure, we can hold Deshaun Watson accountable to a certain degree. We can hold him accountable for the Cleveland Browns game where the team only scored 7 points and the defense, held Baker Mayfield to 10 points. I'll give you that. Deshaun Watson's not perfect, but no quarterback in the NFL is perfect. And like I just mentioned, Deshaun Watson is doing the best he can, folks. He's doing all he can. He's trying, man. He really is. and he has not added to the Houston Texans' problems. I'm sorry, but a guy through 14 games that's completing 69.9% of his throws, a guy that's thrown for 27 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and has a 110.6 passer rating, that guy's not the problem. That's the same pass rating as one Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes has much better weapons and a much better supporting cast and a much better coaching staff than Deshaun Watson. The fact that Deshaun Watson has the same passer rating right now as I speak today as one Patrick Mahomes, it's mind-boggling to me. I don't know how Deshaun Watson does it because we saw a very talented quarterback in Carson Wentz this year fold because his team was not very good around him. Are we also going to ignore the fact that Deshaun Watson had a 24-0 lead on Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs last year? Okay, I'm sorry, people, but if you can't recognize Deshaun Watson's greatness, I cannot help you, okay? And outside of Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and Russell Wilson, what other quarterback are you taking over Deshaun Watson? Lamar Jackson? Personally, I'm going to pass. Deshaun Watson is a more accurate thrower of the football. Deshaun Watson has won a playoff game. Lamar Jackson has not. Lamar Jackson has not shown he can elevate under pressure. Deshaun Watson, he's shown that in the highest leverage moments in the playoffs, he can elevate under pressure. Kyler Murray, I'm sorry, he's really good, but a little bit too small. You know, I think Deshaun Watson's a better thrower from the pocket. Actually, I don't think that. I know that. Josh Allen. Got a lot of respect for Josh Allen. Josh Allen, he's got a cannon for an arm. But didn't Deshaun Watson beat Josh Allen in a playoff game last year, despite having a much worse roster? That's fair to point out, people. That's fair to point out. I think Deshaun Watson's a more accurate thrower of the football. I will take him over Josh Allen. So, folks, stop the nonsense. If you can't see how talented Deshaun Watson is, I cannot help you. Okay, I just can't, okay? Deshaun Watson's not overrated. He should not be blamed for the Houston Texans' struggles. And I 100% without a doubt know that if Deshaun Watson gets a much better and more stable head coach, the Houston Texans, they're going to go far. They're going to go places. Okay, Deshaun Watson, he's a great quarterback. He has a chance to win a Super Bowl because he's very, very talented. As long as you give Deshaun Watson a stable head coach and a good enough roster, he will win a Super Bowl. I guarantee you, as long as he stays healthy. So in reality, those of you that are slandering Deshaun Watson out there, just stop it. You don't know what you're talking about. And ultimately, you're just flat out wrong. Deshaun Watson should not be blamed for the Houston Texans' struggles. Speaking of the Houston Texans wasting Deshaun Watson, I now want to talk about Matthew Stafford because I've been saying for the past year and a half that Matthew Stafford is arguably the most underrated quarterback in all of football. Now, I do believe that Ryan Tannehill definitely deserves some consideration for that title. I will talk about and discuss Ryan Tannehill later on in the show. But Matthew Stafford, when you watch him play, it's very clear that he's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the entire NFL. He's got one of the 5 best arms in the entire NFL. Is Matthew Stafford an elite quarterback? No, absolutely not. He's not an elite quarterback. There's only 3 elite guys right now. You know, you got Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, and Russell Wilson. That's about it. Maybe Deshaun Watson. He's close, but that's about it. There's only about 3, maybe 4 elite guys out there, you know. If you give Matthew Stafford protection, if you give him a very good running game, he can win you a lot of football games. Folks, we've seen Nick Foles and Jimmy Garoppolo get to Super Bowls playing on stacked rosters. Matthew Stafford's a better quarterback than both, and it's not even close. Not even close. If you think that Matthew Stafford is not a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo and Nick Foles, I cannot help you. Nick Foles, the same guy that cannot beat out Mitchell Trubisky right now. Okay? I'm just saying, people, Matthew Stafford's a very good tier 2 quarterback. And Matthew Stafford is a quarterback that has proven that he can elevate in high leverage moments. He's a guy that's played through injuries in the past. He's tough as nails. And I think the Detroit Lions are wasting away Matthew Stafford's talent. Here's some facts about Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford is 7th all time in fourth quarter comebacks. Matthew Stafford is tied for 8th all time in game-winning drives. Not eighth in the NFL right now, not 8th all time in the last 5 years. I'm talking 8th all time out of all starting quarterbacks. Okay? He's got the 8th most game-winning drives of all time. He's tied for 8th place right now. Did you know that Matthew Stafford has more career touchdown passes than Joe Montana? Joe Montana. Now, I'm not saying for 1 second that Matthew Stafford's a better quarterback than Joe Montana, but, folks, Matthew Stafford's really, really good, and he's being wasted by a bad, poorly run organization. It always seems like the Detroit Lions can't get the right head coach. The defense has stunk for years. They've always given Stafford below average offensive lines, and they draft players like Calvin Johnson, but Calvin Johnson decides to retire early because he can't stand the Lions organization, and he has no motivation to play for that franchise anymore. It's a shame, folks, and I'll never forget when Kerryon Johnson back in September of 2018, became the first Detroit Lions running back to rush for 100 yards in nearly 5 years. He broke a streak that had gone on of the Lions not having a 100-yard rusher since November of 2013. So the Lions, as a franchise, from November of 2013 to September of 2018, had not given Matthew Stafford a running back that rushed for over 100 yards. Folks, you see Derrick Henry and Alvin Kamara rushing for over 100 yards weekly, and the Detroit Lions consistently have not given Matthew Stafford a run game. The guy has been screwed his entire career. And when Matthew Stafford was coming out of the University of Georgia, a lot of NFL scouts felt that he was one of the best NFL prospects at the quarterback position of all time. That was what was being discussed about Matthew Stafford at the time. Matthew Stafford had such a strong arm back in high school. NFL scouts were saying, yeah, that guy has a polished, refined NFL arm, and he's not even in college yet. That was what they were saying about Matthew Stafford's arm back when he was in high school. Okay, and it's just such a shame to see Matthew Stafford's career, be wasted by the Detroit Lions up to this point. They've not given him great rosters. They've fired head coaches like Jim Caldwell that shouldn't have been fired. And I just hope for Matthew Stafford's career that the Detroit Lions can actually find a legitimate head coach to come in and change the culture in Detroit. Or for the heck of it, I just wish Matthew Stafford was on a good football team. I really, truly hope the Detroit Lions trade away Matthew Stafford to the 49ers, to the Patriots, maybe to Washington if they're not sold on Dwayne Haskins or Alex Smith. The Indianapolis Colts could be a team to look for to be on the lookout for Matthew Stafford as Phillip Rivers is getting older by the day. You could talk about maybe a team like the New Orleans Saints because Drew Brees, he's probably going to retire after this season. Maybe Tom Brady retires after this season. Tampa Bay could be in the market for a quarterback. There's a lot of quarterback-needy teams out there that could use a Matthew Stafford. And I guarantee you, if Matthew Stafford goes to a team like the 49ers or the Patriots or the Colts or the Buccaneers or the Saints, they will be in the Super Bowl conversation. Matthew Stafford is more than capable of winning games with those teams. And I just feel bad for Matthew Stafford because his career, for the most part, has been wasted with the Detroit Lions. I believe Matthew Stafford has Hall of Fame level talent, and unfortunately, it's been wasted by the Detroit Lions organization. Okay, let me shift to this right here. I've always had the firm belief that Bill Belichick and not Tom Brady is more responsible for the New England Patriots 20-year dynasty. And I've done a whole topic on that subject. You guys can check that episode out here on YouTube or on podcasting platforms. I put that out, for you guys to look at. You guys can check out my thoughts on, why Bill Belichick, to me personally, is more responsible for the New England Patriots dynasty. But, I've always talked about, how it's very important to have great quarterback play on your team. I'm a guy that doesn't like to go cheap on quarterbacks. I respect the Nick Foles of the world. I respect the Jimmy Garoppolo's, the Teddy Bridgewaters, the Gardner Minshews of the world. But in reality, I want a top 10 quarterback. I want the guys like Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers. I want those guys, okay? I want playmakers at the quarterback position. However, I've come to the realization that having a great head coach is more important than having a great quarterback. And ultimately, if I had a choice between Patrick Mahomes or Bill Belichick today, I'm choosing Bill Belichick. And I'll tell you why I'm leaning towards having an elite head coach over having an elite quarterback. I'll tell you why. Because here's the thing, folks. Think about this situation right here. If Deshaun Watson had Bill Belichick as his head coach and Patrick Mahomes had Bill O'Brien as his head coach, who do you think has a better chance to win the Super Bowl? The argument of having an elite quarterback or a quarterback better than a guy like Deshaun Watson, who's pretty good himself, but you get the point. The advantage goes to Deshaun Watson. Patrick Mahomes, as talented as he is, I don't think he's talented enough to overcome Bill O'Brien's shortcomings as a head coach. See, what you folks have to realize is this. You can get to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl with an average quarterback, but a great head coach. It's hard to get to and win Super Bowls with a great quarterback, but average coaching. Keep this in mind, folks. Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl throwing 9 touchdowns and 9 touchdowns to 17 interceptions in 2015. Peyton Manning had his second worst season as a pro in the National Football League. But because of great coaching and because of a great roster around him, Peyton Manning was able to win the Super Bowl. Nick Foles, a guy right now that cannot beat out Mitchell Trubisky in Chicago. Nick Foles has won a Super Bowl. Do you want to know why Nick Foles has won a Super Bowl? He won a Super Bowl because Doug Peterson coached his butt off during the playoffs. He outcoached Bill Belichick in the Super Bowl. And say what you want about Doug Peterson's struggles this year, when he's on, he's a darn good head coach. He's one of the best head coaches in the entire NFL when he is on his A game. Jimmy Garoppolo beat Aaron Rodgers twice last season. He beat Aaron Rodgers in an NFC Championship game. Did he beat Aaron Rodgers because he's a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers? No. He beat Aaron Rodgers because Kyle Shanahan is a better head coach than Matt LaFleur, and Matt LaFleur was vastly outcoached in that matchup, and the Packers did not match up with the 49ers. Jared Goff has gotten to a Super Bowl. Is Jared Goff a top 10 quarterback? No, he's not. Jared Goff's very good, but he's not special. Heck, for the love of God, Jared Goff just handed the terrible, sorry, and 0-13 New York Jets their first win of the 2020 NFL season. And by the way, when Jared Goff got to a Super Bowl, when he had the number 1 scoring offense at his disposal, with Todd Gurley, an elite offensive line, a great defense behind him led by Aaron Donald, he lost in the Super Bowl. You want to know why he lost in the Super Bowl? He lost in the Super Bowl because Bill Belichick kicked Sean McVay's tailbone. Sean McVay got outcoached by a mile in that Super Bowl. And Jared Goff, despite having the better team at his disposal, he struggled because his head coach could not save him. Tom Brady did everything that he could to try to overcome Bill Belichick's mistakes in the Super Bowl versus the Philadelphia Eagles when Nick Foles beat him. But Tom Brady, despite throwing for over 500 yards and throwing for 3 touchdowns, he could not overcome his team's shortcomings because the Philadelphia Eagles outcoached the New England Patriots. Can we not forget that Joe Flacco has won a Super Bowl? Joe Flacco's the backup quarterback for the New York Jets right now. Joe Flacco, he can't even start for the Jets right now. And he has won a Super Bowl. You want to know why he's won a Super Bowl? Because he played on a great team with a great head coach named Jim Harbaugh. Folks, Trent Dilfer has won a Super Bowl. And when we look at the guys like Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Terry Bradshaw, Troy Aikman, 4 quarterbacks that have 17 Super Bowls won between the four of them. When we look at guys like Brady, Montana, Bradshaw, and Aikman, we recognize they have great intangibles. We recognize they're Hall of Famers. We recognize Tom Brady and Joe Montana probably are the 2 greatest quarterbacks of all time. But as far as physical talent, are they as good as guys like Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Brett Favre, Dan Marino, etc., etc.? No. But you want to know why those guys have the Super Bowls and guys like Aaron Rodgers don't? Because they've had great coaching throughout their entire career. Anyone who thinks that Terry Bradshaw and Troy Aikman are better quarterbacks than Aaron Rodgers, they just don't know what they're talking about. Because when I look at Troy Aikman, the guy for his career threw 165 touchdown passes to 141 interceptions. That's not knocking your socks off. That's not great. Terry Bradshaw, for his career, threw 2 more touchdowns than interceptions. For his career, he's got 212 touchdown passes to 210 interceptions. Now, I get it. It's a totally different new era. Everyone's putting up a bunch of godly stats nowadays. But come on, folks. Terry Bradshaw, is he one of the most talented quarterbacks you've ever seen? I hope not, because he's good, but he's not a physically, imposing quarterback. He's not a guy that, is special. He's not better than Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, John Elway, etc., etc. He's not the most talented guy. But because he had a great Hall of Fame head coach, he won a bunch of Super Bowls. And my fear for guys like Deshaun Watson, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert is this. They're talented quarterbacks. They have rocket arms. They're great athletes. They can make all the throws. But unfortunately, I think some of their talents are being wasted because they don't have the right head coaches for them. Justin Herbert, I hope and pray he gets the right head coach for him. Because if the Chargers continue to be a dysfunctional organization that won't spend top of the level money on top tier head coaches, Justin Herbert's not going to go anywhere. He's not going to do anything in the postseason. Same thing can be said for the Houston Texans and Deshaun Watson. Thank God Matt LaFleur is in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers right now. We'll see if Aaron Rodgers can capitalize on his final, couple of years to win a Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford, God bless him, he can't win in Detroit. His rosters and coaching staffs are awful. Folks, coaching matters. Whenever you see the Tom Brady's of the world or the Joe Montanas of the world or the Steve Youngs or the Terry Bradshaws or the Troy Aikmans of the world winning Super Bowls, it's mainly because they have great head coaches. Bill Walsh, Bill Belichick, great guys that know how to coach and know how to control an entire locker room and get the most out of their roster. Having a great head coach is much more important than having a great quarterback, in my opinion, no doubt about it. I now want to shift to the New York Jets. So the New York Jets just got a pretty crazy win versus the LA Rams this past week during Week 15 of the 2020 NFL season. They won the game 23-20. And on a personal level, I'm happy for the Jets players. I never want to see a team go 0-16. That's a stain that the players will probably never ever live down. I feel sorry for the Detroit Lions players that had to go 0-16 about a decade ago. I feel sorry for that Cleveland Browns team that went 0-16 about 5 years ago, I believe. So yeah, I'm happy for the players, and I will say the Jets do have 3 interesting pieces that are really good, that are young. Denzel Mims, a good wide receiver that I liked when he was at college. Quinnen Williams. He has a chance to be an elite defensive tackle within the next 3 to 4 years. Definitely, he's a really special talent. I believe in Quinnen Williams. And Mekhi Becton, they found their star left tackle. They've addressed the left tackle position. He's a cornerstone on that offensive line. And for what it's worth, I'm not the biggest Sam Darnold fan, but Sam Darnold actually showed up and played a good game, and he looked good. He's making some progress, at least for now, you know. It's pretty clear to me that Adam Gase has stunted the growth of one Sam Darnold. I don't think Sam Darnold is all that great of a quarterback in the first place, but I will say with better coaching, he definitely could be a very good, viable starter that can win you games in the National Football League, no doubt about it. So we'll see what the Jets do in regards to Sam Darnold, because guess what? The Jets may have very well missed out on Trevor Lawrence, the star quarterback at Clemson. And this win for the New York Jets versus the LA Rams in Week 15 of the 2020 NFL season, a game that allowed the Jets to avoid having an 0-16 season. That's the bright side of things. But on the downside of things, this could be one of the worst wins in Jets history, simply because now the Jacksonville Jaguars are in the driver's seat to have the number 1 overall pick, and I guarantee you they're going to draft Trevor Lawrence to replace Gardner Minshew. The New York Jets, for all the tanking that they've done, for all the sucking they've done, for all the terrible losses they've had, it seemed like they were due to get a guy like Trevor Lawrence, a generational talent, a guy that's as close to a canvas prospect as there really can be, and the Jets are probably going to miss out on the guy, and it's unfortunate. And I understand that players don't want to tank. I understand that sometimes coaches don't want to tank. At this point, it's appropriate to tank when you can draft a guy like Trevor Lawrence. I know that Jets fans are probably upset. They're probably pissed off. They're probably ticked. They're probably living right now because, unfortunately, you got to settle for Justin Fields or Zach Wilson. I like Justin Fields a lot. I think Justin Fields has a chance to turn around an NFL franchise. But I got some questions about Justin Fields, you know. He's not played particularly well the last couple of games. He struggled versus Indiana. He struggled versus Northwestern. And as good as Justin Fields is, I think Trevor Lawrence would have been the right guy suited to really, truly handle the New York Jets organization and dysfunction. There are legitimate questions about Justin Fields. And while there are questions about any NFL prospect, there are much less questions about Trevor Lawrence. You could talk about Zach Wilson. Oh, the Jets could go get Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson? He's not Trevor Lawrence. I like Zach Wilson. I think he has some talent, but he doesn't have as high a ceiling as Trevor Lawrence. What people are failing to realize is, assuming the Jacksonville Jaguars don't win another game the rest of the way, and they hold on to the number 1 overall pick, if that's the case, and the Jets miss out on Trevor Lawrence, it's going to potentially hurt them for the next decade or so. It's going to set them back potentially if Trevor Lawrence ends up becoming the next big thing in Jacksonville or wherever he lands. If a team trades up with Jacksonville, we'll see what happens. I doubt that happens. But even if Trevor Lawrence doesn't pan out to be great with the Jaguars, you would have at least hoped and fantasized that your franchise maybe could turn him around. Unfortunately, the Jets are going to miss out, man. And the Jets seem like they're cursed, man. It just doesn't seem like the Jets can do anything right. And my question is, why is Adam Gase still coaching this team? Why is he still coaching this team? In all honesty, if I'm a Jets fan, I want Adam Gase fired as of right now. Immediately, no questions asked. Because Adam Gase, he can't even seem to lose the right amount of games to get Trevor Lawrence. Okay, Adam Gase, you already screwed up Sam Darnold's development. You already, got the players behind the 8 ball. You've lost so many games. You're a terrible head coach. You're no good. You're arguably the worst head coach in the entire NFL right now. As far as head coaches are concerned, he can't do anything right. He can't even tank properly. You know, go out and lose all the games. That's all you need to do. And I understand Adam Gase wants probably another coaching job. He probably wants another coaching opportunity. That's why the Jets should have fired him a long time ago. They should have fired him after the team started off like 0-7, 0-8. He should have been gone. He should have been out the building. There's no reason why Adam Gase should still have a job. And he has a job right now because the Jets are being ran by incompetent people. By people that don't know what they're doing, and they have to pay for it. And if they miss out on Trevor Lawrence, that could haunt the New York Jets franchise for a very, very long time. No doubt about it. Sorry, Jets fans. You probably missed out on Trevor Lawrence. But we'll see if Sam Darnold or Justin Fields or maybe even a guy like Zach Wilson can turn the franchise around. All I'm going to say is the probability of that happening is a lot slimmer than what it would probably be if Trevor Lawrence were your future quarterback for the next 10 to 15 years. That's all I'm going to say about that. So obviously because the New York Jets won the game this past Sunday, they got their first win of the 2020 NFL season. I thought it was going to be impossible for them to win another game, but they did it. And as a result, the Los Angeles Rams found themselves on the other side of the win column. They lost the game. And, you know, I've been a pretty big supporter of a guy like Jared Goff. I really have. I think Jared Goff is actually more underrated, more so than overrated. You know, if I were to pick or choose a side, is Jared Goff overrated? Is Jared Goff underrated? I'm going to take the underrated side. I do think Jared Goff is a legitimate franchise quarterback. I don't think he gets enough credit for getting the Rams to a Super Bowl back 2 seasons ago. It's going on 3 seasons ago now. But Jared Goff's been to a Super Bowl. I saw Jared Goff during that playoff run outplay Drew Brees in the Superdome. Jared Goff, for a good majority of that season, he was an MVP candidate. I think Jared Goff has very good leadership skills. I believe he throws one of the best deep balls in the entire NFL. He throws a very catchable ball. And I'm confident you can eventually win a Super Bowl with Jared Goff. However, with that being said, Jared Goff has to step it up. If Sean McVay and Jared Goff want to win a Super Bowl during their time together, Jared Goff has to be better. Keep in mind, during his Super Bowl run, in which he got to the Super Bowl, the team was great. He played good versus the Saints on the road. Jared Goff could only score 3 points in the Super Bowl versus Bill Belichick's defense, and you can't blame the defense for that game. The defense held Tom Brady to 13 points in the Super Bowl. If you were the Los Angeles Rams and you walked into that Super Bowl knowing you were going to hold Tom Brady to 13 points, and you coming into the game had the number 1 ranked offense with Todd Gurley, C.J. Anderson, a great offensive line, really, really good wide receivers, Sean McVay is your head coach, with that defense behind you, I say the Rams are going to win that Super Bowl 100%. But Jared Goff was not good in the Super Bowl. He was not good. And last season, when the Rams missed the playoffs, Jared Goff wasn't good enough. And versus the New York Jets, a terrible, miserable football team, Jared Goff could not move the ball at times. You can look at the stats. You can say, oh, he threw more touchdowns than interceptions. Folks, I watch these games. I'm not on at the stats. I'm watching what my eyes tell me. And my eyes told me in that game, Jared Goff was not very good. And listen, the Rams, they've got a really good head coach in Sean McVay. Once again, they're loaded at the wide receiver and tight end position. Cam Akers, he's a stud. He looks like a really good running back. I was a big fan of Cam Akers back at Florida State. The Rams have everything for Jared Goff to succeed. Jared Goff has everything put in place for him to succeed. A good offensive line, a really good wide receiver core, an offensive-minded head coach. Your defense is being led by Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. Jared Goff, it's on you, brother. You guys step it up. You have to be better, okay? And I call Jared Goff the best quarterback from the Was it the 2016 draft class or the 2017 draft class? It was 2016, pardon me, yes. I do believe Jared Goff still to this day is the best quarterback in that draft class. Carson Wentz has gone to the tank. He's not a very good quarterback anymore right now. Could he turn his career around one day? Yeah, maybe. But I do think that Jared Goff has a little bit more special stuff in him where he'll show up in big games. And while Dak Prescott, by far and away, is more talented than Jared Goff, he throws a better football than Jared Goff. Well, I'll just say Dak Prescott's more mobile and a better athlete than Jared Goff. He's a little bit more of a playmaker. When things break down, Jared Goff is not as good as Dak Prescott. When things break down, Dak can make more things happen. But I don't think Dak is a quarterback that I want in big games and high leverage moments. I want Jared Goff in those high leverage moments over Dak Prescott. And for what it's worth, Jared Goff usually shows up versus the Seattles of the world. He showed up versus Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The problem is, he didn't show up versus the terrible 49ers this year. Well, I shouldn't call the 49ers terrible this year because they've been dealing with a lot of injuries. But he did not show up versus the 49ers at home. He got swept by the 49ers this year. Got swept. There's no excuse for that. And you lose to a team like the New York Jets on the road who haven't won a single game all year until you show up in the building. And again, I'm not trying to say everything's on Jared Goff, but a majority of the blame should be placed on Jared Goff because at times he's holding this LA Rams team back. And it's pretty clear to me the book is out on Jared Goff right now. He's really bad with a messy pocket. And he's really bad at times when you force him to hold on to the football way too long. Jared Goff has to get better at those things if the Los Angeles Rams want to win a Super Bowl. Because, listen, we all know that Jared Goff can throw a beautiful deep ball with a clean pocket. We know he's got some arm talent. We saw him go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes on one of the greatest Monday Night Football games of all time and out-duel Patrick Mahomes. He outplayed Patrick Mahomes in that crazy Monday Night Football game. We've seen the good side of Jared Goff, but Jared Goff has to eliminate parts of his bad side, and he has to be more consistent in order for the Los Angeles Rams to win the Super Bowl. If Jared Goff can just consistently be good for the Rams, they can win the Super Bowl. No doubt about it. That roster's loaded. They've got a ton of talent. However, if the LA Rams want to win a Super Bowl, Jared Goff has to be better. I was disappointed in Jared Goff during that Super Bowl performance. And if you look at Jared Goff in the playoffs, he's played in 4 career playoff games. He's 2-2 in those games. And in those games, he's completed 55% of his throws, has thrown 2 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, and has a 73.6 pass rating. Now again, I'm not all into stats. I'm not all into fantasy football. But at times during the playoffs, if you take away that New Orleans Saints game where Jared Goff was great, he hasn't been all that great in the playoffs, And so we'll wait and see. And by the way, if the Saints get that call to go their way in that game, in the NFC title game versus the Rams, they're probably going to the Super Bowl and not the Rams. So yeah, Jared Goff, he's got to step it up. If the Los Angeles Rams want to reach their full potential, and if they want to win the Super Bowl during the Sean McVay era, Jared Goff has to be better, no doubt about it. So Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers played a pretty ugly game versus the Carolina Panthers last week. Aaron Rodgers was not pleased with his team performance in the post-game press conference. He did not seem very happy. He basically was saying, we got to be better. And versus a 4-10 Carolina Panthers team, the Green Bay Packers barely escaped at home. The offensive line could not block. The wide receivers were dropping passes. The wide receivers were struggling to create separation. And in the second half of that game, the Packers had a grand total of 41 total yards. And look, the Green Bay Packers are a very good football team. I do believe they are a Super Bowl contender. I do believe they're a top 5 team in all football right now. And I would not be shocked if the Green Bay Packers go all the way to Super Bowl 55. And I won't be shocked if Aaron Rodgers wins his second Super Bowl in Super Bowl 55. Even if the Kansas City Chiefs are standing in their way. The Green Bay Packers, they're a very talented football team. Devontae Adams, he's a very good wide receiver. Aaron Rodgers, he's a great quarterback. He's a top 3 quarterback in the game of football right now. He get my vote for league MVP in 2020. He's been that good. Aaron Jones is a very good running back. Matt LaFleur continues to progress as a head coach. He's one of the best head coaches in the entire NFL. At least he's very, very underrated in my opinion, And the Packers defense, while it does leave some things to be desired, they've got some good players. Jair Alexander, he's a shutdown corner. Kenny Clark, Zadarius Smith, Preston Smith. They got some good players, But my knock on Green Bay is I think they're good, but there's a level that I don't know if they can reach. And that level is the Kansas City Chiefs. That level potentially is the New Orleans Saints in a rematch back from week number 3 where the Packers beat the New Orleans Saints. I could see a situation where if the Saints bring their A game and the Packers don't, the Saints very well could march into Lambeau Field and beat the Packers, Even a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers are very, very talented despite their struggles. A team like the Buffalo Bills, they're very talented. A team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who destroyed the Green Bay Packers about 2 months ago. There are some really good football teams out there. And my problem with the Green Bay Packers is I don't know if they have enough. I think they have enough, but it's not obvious to me. When I look at the New Orleans Saints, I say, yep, they've got the roster that's good enough. I look at the Chiefs, I say, yep, they got a roster that's good enough. I look at the Buccaneers, despite Tom Brady's struggles, if Tom Brady brings his A game, I say, yeah, they've got a bunch of good players. Even a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have struggled over the past couple of weeks, I say, man, they're really good. The teams like the Chiefs, the Buccaneers, the Saints, the Ravens, the Steelers, those teams went out their way in the offseason and during the trading deadline to ensure they were Super Bowl ready. And the Packers organization, they stayed pat in the offseason. They didn't do much in the draft. None of their 2020 draft picks are contributing to the team right now. They drafted a quarterback instead of, trying to get Aaron Rodgers, another wide receiver, instead of getting him some more help on defense. Despite Aaron Rodgers leading the Packers to the NFC title game, they drafted Aaron Rodgers' replacement in the first round of the draft. Meanwhile, you got teams like the Chiefs, you got teams like the Saints, you got teams like the Buccaneers that are spending first round draft capital on players that can help them win right now. And I don't know, man. I've seen this Green Bay Packers supporting cast time and time again let Aaron Rodgers down in the playoffs. I've seen Aaron Rodgers go out there and ball out and do everything he can to put the Packers in position to try to get back to a Super Bowl and win another Super Bowl. And the parts around him sometimes just aren't good enough to beat the Seattles, the San Franciscos, or teams like New Orleans this year. It just seems like sometimes the Packers always run into one team that's just a little bit better than them. And listen, I love the Green Bay Packers. I love Aaron Rodgers. But I've seen this defense in 8 playoff losses that Aaron Rodgers has suffered allow 36 points per game. And I just wonder, did the Packers do enough to help out Aaron Rodgers? Is this Packers team truly good enough? Because let's keep in mind, the Packers, sure, they beat the Saints, but they also barely beat the 1-win Jacksonville Jaguars. They're also 1-2 versus winning teams this year. They lost to the Colts. They got blown out by the Buccaneers. They barely beat the Jaguars. They barely beat the Panthers. And I just wonder, is Aaron Rodgers' supporting cast good enough to help him get over the top? I'm not so sure. The jury, to me, is still out. I think that this is one of the better teams that Aaron Rodgers has ever had at his disposal in Green Bay, but I felt that way last year. And last year, Green Bay, they got boat raced by the 49ers. So, listen, folks, Aaron Rodgers, I believe in him. I believe he's going to do his part. He's going to throw for a lot of touchdowns. He's going to put the Packers in position to win. It will be all about if Aaron Rodgers' supporting cast can help him get over the top. If Aaron Rodgers' defense shows up, if the running game shows up, if Matt LaFleur calls a good game, I ain't no doubt about it. Believe Aaron Rodgers is going to win a second Super Bowl. In fact, if the Packers bring their A game, I believe they can beat the Kansas City Chiefs. But we're going to see if the Packers organization was truly right or not. Because the Green Bay Packers organization basically just said, we don't need to make a ton of moves. We believe in the guys that we have. within our locker room right now. They didn't make a trade at the trading deadline. They didn't spend a whole lot of money in free agency this past offseason. They said, we're good with what we got. We believe in Aaron Rodgers. We believe in Matt LaFleur. We're good enough right now. So we'll see, Packers organization. We'll see, man. If the Green Bay Packers want to win a Super Bowl, Aaron Rodgers supporting cast will need to show up, and they will need to show up big in the playoffs. So Ryan Tannehill is having an excellent season for the Tennessee Titans in 2020. Through 14 games, he's completing 66% of his passes. He's on pace to throw for over 4,000 yards. He's got 31 touchdown passes to only 5 interceptions, and he has a 110.4 passer rating. And I know a lot of people want to give Derrick Henry a ton of credit for the Tennessee Titans' success. And listen, Derrick Henry, he's a beast. He deserves a lot of credit. But I've always been a little hesitant to hop on the Derrick Henry for MVP bandwagon just because Ryan Tannehill is having an amazing season, okay? And when you have a guy that's very valuable on one side and another guy that's just as valuable on the other, then it's hard for me to say one guy is the true MVP when I'm not sure who's the MVP on their own team. But, here's the thing, people. Ryan Tannehill is an example of why coaching matters so much in the National Football League. Ryan Tannehill was drafted by the Miami Dolphins in the first round. And he played for 6 years in Miami. And he was a losing quarterback in Miami. He had a losing record. He didn't have much success. And Ryan Tannehill was labeled a first-round bust by many people. By many NFL fans, he was labeled a bust. And he has to go to Tennessee to be the backup quarterback. He backs up Marcus Mariota. And the team is struggling with Marcus Mariota. They're 2-4. People are calling for Mike Vrabel's job. And Mike Vrabel makes the change to roll with Ryan Tannehill over Marcus Mariota, and Ryan Tannehill does not look back. He took advantage of having great weapons, of having a great offensive line, of having a great running game, something that Marcus Mariota did not do. Marcus Mariota constantly was holding the Tennessee Titans back. I said Mariota was a bust. He's no good. He's just not a starting quarterback anymore. He's really bad, and I was proven right, and Ryan Tannehill actually proved me wrong to a certain degree because I was kind of out on Ryan Tannehill. I did not expect Ryan Tannehill to take over and lead the Tennessee Titans to winning 70% of his games since taking over. Since Ryan Tannehill has taken over for the Tennessee Titans, they've gone 17-7. They've won 70% of their games. He's completed 68% of his throws. He's thrown for 53 touchdown passes to 11 interceptions. He's led them to the AFC title game. And right now, the Tennessee Titans, they're potentially in the driver's seat to win their division because of Ryan Tannehill. And a lot of people question the contract that Ryan Tannehill received in the offseason. I think Ryan Tannehill is living up to the contract that he received. And it's pretty clear, if you put good weapons around Ryan Tannehill and you give him protection, he can win you a division. He can win you a lot of football games. And right now, it's not crazy to think that Ryan Tannehill is a top 10 quarterback. Take out Patrick Mahomes. Take out Russell Wilson. Take out Aaron Rodgers. Take out Deshaun Watson. Take out Lamar Jackson. Take out Josh Allen. Take out Kyler Murray. Take out guys like Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, who are killing it as rookies. Take out a guy like Matthew Stafford, who has a rocket arm. Take out a guy like Baker Mayfield. Outside of those guys, Ryan Tannehill's right up there. And it's not crazy to think that Ryan Tannehill is a better quarterback than a couple of the guys that I mentioned. You can make the argument that Ryan Tannehill right now is a little bit better than Joe Burrow. You can make the argument he's better than Matthew Stafford. You can make the argument that he's better than Baker Mayfield. If that's the case, then that puts him right in the top 10 as far as quarterbacks are concerned right now. Don't give me Drew Brees. Don't give me Tom Brady. Those guys are no longer great quarterbacks. They're good. They can win you games. If you give them protection, they'll make the right play. They'll make the right reads. But they're not playing at as high of a level as Ryan Tannehill right now. Ryan Tannehill's been balling out the last 2 years. And I got to say, Ryan Tannehill deserves a lot of credit for working on his craft, for keeping his head down, for not continuing to listen to the media, to listen to the guys that wrote him off. He's worked his tail off, and he's totally turned his career around in Tennessee. I also have to give Mike Vrabel a lot of credit. Mike Vrabel is a very good head coach, and for what it's worth, the Tennessee Titans, they built together a very good roster. The defense has taken a step back this year, but they've got a very good offensive line. They've got really good wide receivers. They've got a star running back in Derrick Henry. All they really needed was a quarterback. And now Ryan Tannehill is their guy. And I believe the Tennessee Titans, as long as Ryan Tannehill is playing at a high level, they're going to win a lot of football games over the next 5 to 7 years. Ryan Tannehill, his best football is only ahead of him. And I'm a believer that Ryan Tannehill is a long-term franchise quarterback. He's playing at a high level. He throws a very good deep ball. He's capable of winning games. He's shown he can win in the playoffs. He got to the AFC title game last year. We'll see how far the Tennessee Titans go over time, as Ryan Tannehill probably is their future for the next 5 to 7 years. But I'm a believer in Ryan Tannehill. I'm very happy that Ryan Tannehill has turned his career around with the Tennessee Titans. Coaching matters, people. Coaching matters. I now want to shift to the Denver Broncos. So I had high hopes for the Denver Broncos this season. Now, obviously, they're not going to be a playoff team this year. I felt they very well could be a playoff team. I was wrong about that. They're not a playoff team. They're not in contention anymore. They're not going to the playoffs. And I understand there's been a ton of key injuries to the Broncos this year. It's not a completely lost season. You've had some good young players step up, give some meaningful snaps. And I very well could see the Broncos rebooting as a football team next year. You have some key players like Juwan James opt out. I think Denver will be much improved next year. However, going forward, I have some serious concerns and serious questions about starting quarterback Drew Lock. I felt that Drew Lock had the potential to have a breakout season in 2020, and I was completely wrong. Drew Lock has been horrible in 2020. He's been horrible. Now, does that mean I'm giving up on, Drew Lock? I'm not completely out on the guy, but right now, I'm not trying to buy any more stock. I mean, Drew Lock has been bad this year, folks. He's completing 57.7% of his throws. He's thrown 14 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. He's got a 75.4 passer rating in 11 games played as the starter. Now, I understand it's not been the ideal offseason for young quarterbacks. I understand he's young. He's learning. I understand he had to deal with some injuries this year. He got banged up a little bit early in the year. But the bottom line is Drew Lock, he hasn't been very accurate. He's making poor decisions. He's turning the football over. He's got more turnovers this year than touchdowns. And he's got good weapons. Jerry Jeudy's very good. Noah Fant's really good. KJ Hamler, really good. Tim Patrick, he stepped up this year. And Drew Lock has done virtually nothing with those weapons. And he has made progress over the past couple of weeks, but I don't know, man. I don't know if Drew Lock has that it factor. I know Drew Lock has the talent to become a great quarterback one day, but talent's only part of the equation. I'm not sure if Drew Lock is that guy. When I watch guys like Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow, even Patrick Mahomes back when he was in his first season as a starter, even guys like Deshaun Watson, Kyler Murray, these are young quarterbacks, and there's just something about them that tells me they have that it factor. And I'm not sure if Drew Lock has that it factor. Now, Drew Lock did go 4-1 as a starter last year. That gave me a lot of hope that he could come into 2020 and build on that momentum in Pat Shurmur's offense. Pat Shurmur's a very good offensive coordinator. Pat Shurmur allowed Case Keenum to get to an NFC title game. I shouldn't say allowed. He helped Case Keenum get to an NFC title game. That sounds better, yes. Case Keenum played his best football when Pat Shurmur was his offensive coordinator. Daniel Jones was on pace to break Baker Mayfield's rookie touchdown pass record before he got injured late in the season. under Pat Shermer's offense. And Daniel Jones, he's not nearly as talented as Drew Lock. And I'm just wondering, what's wrong with Drew Lock? Why is he not accurate? Why is he making poor decisions? I don't get it. And again, Drew Lock, he's got a long way to go. And the Denver Broncos, they need him to mature as a quarterback really, really fast. They need him to get good really fast and really quickly because they're in a division with Patrick Mahomes. They're in a division with Justin Herbert. They're in a division with Derek Carr, who has his flaws, but he's much better than Drew Lock today. Far and away a better quarterback than Drew Lock right now. So, Drew Lock is really going to have to really, truly work on his game in the offseason. He's got to get more accurate. He's going to really have to study his film. He's going to need to make better decisions. And he's going to really, truly need to improve his game as a quarterback because, I'm sorry, but I don't care how many weapons the Broncos have. If they don't have a quarterback that consistently can play at a high level, they're screwed. So again, I haven't necessarily given up on Drew Lock, but I'm concerned. Drew Lock has not been good in 2020. Only time will tell if Drew Lock becomes the long-term franchise quarterback for the Denver Broncos. It's possible, but right now, as I speak today, is trending towards not being the case. Okay, let's shift to the next topic. Another young quarterback. Let's talk about him. Dwayne Haskins. Let's talk about Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins, quarterback for the Washington football team, was recently spotted on social media hanging out with strippers with no mask on after a loss that he suffered to the Seattle Seahawks. Apparently, he was with his girlfriend. A picture was taken on social media. They identified the guy as Dwayne Haskins. It's been confirmed. That was him in the picture. He's owned up to it. He's came out and said, yep, that was me. He's apologized, and he's been fined by the Washington football team. They fined him over $40,000. He was stripped of being a captain of the team. You know, that's not surprising to me. And look, I'm not a guy that's given up on Dwayne Haskins. I really was a big fan of Dwayne Haskins back when he was at Ohio State. I'm someone that likes to be patient with young quarterbacks. You know, I think that it's appropriate that a young quarterback gets every opportunity to go out there and show what they can do and to prove themselves. And if a quarterback is very talented, I'm willing to give them 3, maybe 4 years to prove themselves. Usually 3. In certain circumstances, 4 years, you know. I actually was one of the people that disagreed with Ron Rivera benching Dwayne Haskins. I think that definitely stunted his growth once again. You know, he definitely seems to be, well, at first I thought he had matured a little bit more sitting on the bench behind Alex Smith, but so far that's not the case. We'll talk about his maturity in a little bit, but last game versus Seattle, Dwayne Haskins, he didn't play his best game, but I saw some good things. I saw some good throws. I believe in Dwayne Haskins' talent, okay? Despite the flaws, despite the interceptions, despite the missed throws, I believe in Dwayne Haskins as an NFL quarterback. I still have not sold my stock. But I will say this. What Dwayne Haskins did was dumb. It was immature. He should have known better. And if Dwayne Haskins wants to be a long-term franchise quarterback in Washington, in Carolina, in Indianapolis, wherever his future may hold, if he wants to be a franchise quarterback, he's got to grow up. He's got to become more mature. And what Dwayne Haskins did does not make him a bad person. He did nothing criminally wrong. He just went to hang out with his girlfriend and some strippers. And personally, I have nothing wrong with Dwayne Haskins doing that. My problem is you didn't wear a mask. And that shows lack of self-awareness from one Dwayne Haskins, because you not wearing a mask, that shows you're not aware of what's going on. It shows you're not aware of the protocols. And this is the second time Dwayne Haskins has broken COVID-19 protocols. He broke the protocol, I believe, several weeks ago in the team hotel when he tried to sneak a friend in there on a Saturday night before a game, and that's not a part of the COVID protocols. He broke the COVID protocol back then, and he's broken it once again. You would think Dwayne Haskins would know better. And I understand there are other guys out there that made mistakes. Deshaun Watson, this past week, he just got fined for, breaking COVID protocols. But no one's really talking about him because Deshaun Watson is established and he's pretty darn good. Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley, they were out partying with no mask on. But I don't know how the Giants really addressed that. That's not the point. The point is, we're talking about Dwayne Haskins right here. And to me, this is a red flag because keep in mind, like I said, this is the second time he's broken the protocols. Okay? Keep in mind, Dwayne Haskins last season, after his first ever win in the NFL as a starting quarterback, Case Keenum had to take the knee in victory in place of Dwayne Haskins because Dwayne Haskins was too busy taking selfies with fans. Let's take into account that Dwayne Haskins, according to reports, and again, I don't know how true these reports are, there were reports that he was bragging after the Baltimore Ravens game about his stats after his team lost the game. There are reports that coaches constantly have been frustrated with Dwayne Haskins for not applying himself and not really diving his nose into the playbook. And they've noticed when Dwayne Haskins was named the starting quarterback of the Washington football team this year that his working habits changed. Ron Rivera talked about he noticed how Dwayne Haskins' working habits changed. And listen, you can be a talented quarterback, but if you're not mature enough to lead a franchise, it doesn't matter. So I could talk about Dwayne Haskins' arm strength. I could talk about the fact that I believe he's a bright guy. But if he's not mature enough to steer a locker room, and if he's not mature enough to lead himself, how can he lead the locker room? So, listen, man. I got some questions about Dwayne Haskins going forward. Again, I've not completely given up on him. I've not sold my stock. But this is a red flag to me. And I'm one of the biggest Dwayne Haskins defenders you will see out there. And let's also keep in mind that Urban Meyer, on the herd with Colin Cowherd, before Dwayne Haskins was drafted, before the whole draft started, Urban Meyer was asked by Colin Cowherd, is Dwayne Haskins, ready to lead $1 billion franchise? And Urban Meyer responded by saying nobody's close. You would think that a head coach that has speaking so highly of Dwayne Haskins would say he's ready. But apparently it just seems like for whatever reason, Dwayne Haskins, his maturity is a question. And I'm starting to wonder if Dwayne Haskins is doing everything he can in his power to become a great quarterback. Because while I hear concerns about your work ethic, while I hear concerns about you going to strip clubs after losses, and again, I have a huge problem with it, but it would help if you're winning games. It would help if you're throwing touchdown passes. I don't know, man. So, again, I have not given up on Dwayne Haskins. I still believe in his talent. However, whether I believe in his talent or not, if he's not mature enough to lead a franchise, it doesn't matter. So in reality, Dwayne Haskins, he has to be better. He has to be more accurate. He can start, to really turn the corner this week versus the Carolina Panthers. The Washington football team has a chance to win the division, and Dwayne Haskins more than likely will get the start. It's about a 50% chance that Alex Smith could play, but all reports kind of point to Dwayne Haskins potentially playing. I could be wrong. Alex Smith, he could feel good on game day. I think Ron Rivera would roll with him. But, I'm just saying, man, Dwayne Haskins, he's got to be much more mature if he wants to be the leader of an NFL franchise and if he wants to be a long-term starting quarterback. I still believe in Dwayne Haskins, but there are some red flags that have definitely popped up that I cannot ignore. Okay, I'm going to close the show out by talking about Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia was a massive failure as the Detroit Lions head coach. I felt that I'd bring up Matt Patricia since I talked about Matthew Stafford a little bit earlier in the show. It just goes to show you that the Detroit Lions continue to whiff on head coaches, and it really bothers me because I see a guy in Matthew Stafford that is good enough to win football games, that is talented enough to win a Super Bowl, and because he does not have the right head coach to help him become a better player and to get him over the top, it just bothers me. And Matt Patricia, he went 13-29-1 in his career as the Detroit Lions head football coach. His team was constantly undisciplined. They were not well coached. They had blown so many opportunities to win games. We could talk about all the fourth quarter leads that Detroit had that were squandered in the past under Matt Patricia. He was just a bad football coach for the Detroit Lions. And Matt Patricia was brought in to take the Detroit Lions over the hump. He was brought in to bring them to new heights because the Detroit Lions, they were doing pretty good under Jim Caldwell. Jim Caldwell, his last 2 years in Detroit, had back-to-back 9-win seasons, 9-7, 9-7. In fact, in 2016, he made the playoffs. And Matt Patricia comes in, not only does he fail to retain the culture that Jim Caldwell established, he made the culture worse. It was a terrible hire. The Detroit Lions should have never fired Jim Caldwell. They should have never done it. Because Matt Patricia, he's been a massive failure. Matt Patricia was brought in to be the extra piece of the puzzle, and he's just broken that franchise in half. He really has. You know, he's not been a good head coach. He has not gotten the Lions over the hump. The culture got significantly worse over the past 3 years under Matt Patricia. And the Detroit Lions, they have some talent. Matthew Stafford's a really talented quarterback. Kenny Galladay's really good. TJ Hawkins is a really good tight end. They've got some good running backs. The defense has some good pieces. But unfortunately, if you don't have the right head coach to steer the ship, your franchise is going to fail. And Matt Patricia, he was a massive failure for the Detroit Lions. And listen, you know, the Detroit Lions definitely whiffed on that head coach hire, but they can right the ship if they go out there and pursue Eric Bieniemy, Robert Saleh, Brian Dable. There's some good head coaching candidates out there. And if the Detroit Lions are truly serious about knocking off Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, they will go out their way to get Matthew Stafford a brand new head coach. And for what it's worth, honestly, if I were the Detroit Lions, I would kind of start from scratch, to be honest with you, because you put Matthew Stafford through so many rebuilds. It's nothing wrong with trying to, hit the reset button to try to clean house. That's definitely a possibility. But either way you slice it, whether the Detroit Lions as a franchise want to blow things up or continue to try to move forward and reboot, they must nail their next head coach, because firing Jim Caldwell for Matt Patricia has set the franchise back several years. And in order to get back on track, the Detroit Lions must hit on their next head coach. But once again, firing Jim Caldwell in favor of Matt Patricia was a massive failure for the Detroit Lions. Well, folks, that's pretty much all I have today. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode today. Have a God bless day, everyone. Stay safe, and I'm Ghost. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juiciest Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big-time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juiciest Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.